Thank you for singing that hymn this morning. Tomorrow is my anniversary, and that was the hymn we sang at my wedding. It's one of my favorite hymns, so thank you for singing that. Sometimes you hear me speak, and I'm Miss Turnbull, and I'm the person who helps with university guidance. And some of you know I'm an old girl. I'm a class of 1975. I wore the green tunic and the bloomers, and I am one of you. But today I'm going to speak from a very different perspective. And when Chapel Talks came up, I thought, what is it that I'd really love to say or talk about? And my theme is the underdog. And I want to talk today as Vera, the sister. Very different perspective, and a very private perspective, but I think it talks a lot about who I am and maybe some time to reflect on who we all should be. And I draw you to the picture, 1966. A little town in northern New Brunswick called Tabasintac, New Brunswick. We were at our summer cottage, and these series of pictures were taken by a very good family friend of my grandmother's, Mrs. Dorothy Beattie, who did her fine arts degree, sort of 1930s at Mount A. And these are very poignant, particular pictures for us. And Father Mike talked about, do you have an image in your mind that sort of defines you in a moment? Now, I will say we were an orthodontist's dream, my sister and I. And if any of you are thinking of dentistry, this is example A of why you could have a good career path down the line. But I'm sitting, and I'm just about to turn 9 in November. My sister had just turned 5 in May, and my brother had turned a year in April. And that picture was taken mid-afternoon, and within 8 hours, due to unknown medical complications, my brother was rendered brain damaged. High fever, an unknown virus, and part of his brain was destroyed. And that changed our lives, not for the worse, although there were times it was pretty dark for us as a family, but it changed our lives, I think, for the better. And why would I say that? In life, there are ups and downs. Life is never easy. At your age, it's pretty easy, but some of you have had some troubles along the way. You can do one of two things in life. You can sit and spin your reels and say, what if, and oh me, and my gosh, or you can choose to move forward. And as a family, it wasn't easy initially. When my father and mother came home from the hospital about 48 hours later, they said, Huey is special, and Huey, you'll have to love him twice as much. And that's how we move forward as a family. And as family, we were very fortunate. We stuck together very, very closely. And not all families are able to do that. There's statistics about families who struggle through challenging times, and they don't always stay together. But for us, it defined us, and we're very, very strong. I think it's why I'm such a strong, vocal woman. I think it's why I'm so fiercely protective, my sister and I, of each other, and ultimately of my brother. And as a family, we're very, very powerful as a unit. The story I want to tell you is that when Huey was first ill, he went to a nursing home for a year before he came back to live in our family. And after a year of being away, my parents said, that's it. Huey's part of our lives. And there are several people in this chapel who've been to my home and know my brother, have met my brother. My brother, although he lives in a group home now, he lived at home with us till he was about 36. He was at every family supper, every family dinner, weddings. Sometimes he didn't like work or music, and we'd have to slip out the side. But he was very much a part of our family. And there are people here in the room who've met Huey, even Haley and Nally Britton know Huey. And Huey is very much still a part of our lives. He was there at Thanksgiving Monday when we went to Fredericton. He's home every weekend. Miss Young has seen him and played dominoes with him. And Huey is still very much a part of our lives. When he came home, we had to take responsibility. And I said to my mom, I was about 10, what can I do? I wasn't a terribly good student in grade school. I was a C student. I worked hard, but I wasn't always focused, and I struggled. And I said to my mom, every night I did my homework at the kitchen table, and I said, Mom, what can I do to help? And she said, Vera, you have to learn to study on your own. I don't have time anymore, because Huey was so needy as a little baby. He was very, very ill. And the story goes, from my mother's perspective, was that I promptly went up to my room and sat at my desk, and I managed to claw my way up to sort of a B-. That was my one job. But my most important job was every day I would walk Huey after school. He didn't fit into a stroller because now he's 5. He didn't learn to walk. Part of the brain that was destroyed, there are connectors between the right hemisphere and left hemisphere, and Lauren Kolivas could probably talk tonight at supper with her dad and find out what those connectors are called. But it's not unlike when you have a stroke. You can't access parts of the information in your brain. And so my brother, it took us almost till he was 9 to learn to walk again. He had just started to walk and do stairs that particular weekend at my grandmother's. And it took a long time for him to learn the simplest things. He was never able to access the part of his brain that controls speech. So my brother, although he's 48 now, has some sounds, but he's never been able to speak. And so my job was to walk Huey in a large, we had an old pram, an English pram. It had big wheels because it was long, and he would fit in it because he was 4 or 5 years old. And I was so proud of this responsibility because every day after school I would walk him for 45 minutes. He loved motion. He loved to be rocked. He loved motion. And I was going down, I can remember exactly where I was. I was on the River Road in Rothsay, and some kids saw me. They were kids who were in my school, but perhaps not in my class. And they came towards me because I wanted to see. I was babysitting. I was 10 years old and babysitting. I wanted to see the baby. And when they looked in the carriage, they laughed. Now, I'm going to try not to cry because even that memory haunts me. So let me just take a minute. So I came home. I was devastated. Absolutely devastated that someone could laugh at my brother. How could they do that? Here was someone who was marginalized, who was an underdog. How could they laugh at an underdog? How could that be? And here I am, 55, and I can still cry about it at a moment's notice that someone could be so mean to my little brother, who is a very special person in my heart. So I think consciously or subconsciously, I made a decision from that moment on. I would fight for the underdogs. And what is an underdog? It's someone who's marginalized. You don't have to have a mental disability. You don't have to have a physical disability. I wasn't the greatest athlete. You may not play the flute particularly well in music class. You may not be great in English. You may struggle in math. And it's important to understand that within all of us, the greatest gift that Huey has given to me is to understand that in each of us, we're all underdogs. There's a little part of our hearts that we worry about. Maybe we're not tall enough. Maybe we don't think we're pretty enough or we're masculine enough. Maybe we don't think we're good enough in the school or we'll never be on first team basketball or hockey. But inside all of us, there's a small part of our hearts, and we worry that we're an underdog. So what has my brother taught me? My brother, who can't speak, has given me the greatest ability to love people. My brother has given me the greatest ability to be sensitive to the needs of others and to try to find those who feel marginalized in our community and try and make a difference for them. And I think it's rather poignant that I'm talking today because we just have to think, and I'm sure Father Mike talked about it earlier this week about Amanda Todd, the young girl in Canada who took her life, who was so bullied and moved schools. And it's a complicated case. I'm not trying to minimize that. But she was an underdog. And how many people stood up for Amanda Todd? How many people went out of their way to try and befriend and try and make a difference? And so really what I want to say in summation is, it was a sad moment in our life. We've moved on. We've had huge milestones in my brother's life. He walks. He doesn't talk, but don't ever think that my brother's not intelligent. He'll be at the house and we'll be talking. I'll say something about, Mom, what about Huey? And he'll look over at you because he knows you're talking about him. He's very, very bright. And I've often thought if we could only unlock that part of the brain that's been locked for him, what a huge difference it would make for him. But the gift he gave me and our family has been incredible. And in closing, I'd like to say I think it's apparent and it's important that in our community, whether that's here at RNS, whether that's in Rothsay or Korea or Japan or parts of the US or different parts of the world, that we're always open to the needs of others, that we're mindful and that we take time to make a difference in those who may be underdogs or marginalized. And especially in this crazy world where we compete with, do you have iPhone 3, iPhone 5, do you have the new iPad? All those things really don't matter. And technology continues to change, the rate of change is exponential. What truly matters at the end of the day is the ability to connect with each other and to make sure that each and every one of us is feeling okay about that little part of ourselves where we believe we're an underdog. Thanks.